how is the wetness? The wetness. The wetness is definitely a thing. Yeah, look, let's have a little chat about the rain, and feel free to jump in if you guys agree or you don't agree, or what your thoughts on it all are. So, the Red Bull Ring obviously was the first place to come out with the rain, and it didn't feel great. It was there. It had its moments. It's kind of okay. Some cars it feels decent. But yeah, it is what it is. It wasn't amazing, but it was okay. This feels definitely a step backwards. It doesn't feel like wet. I mean, if anyone's ever in real life had a bit of a crack, Anthony, 3-second penalty for ignoring yellow flag. That's new. Nah, not new, I don't think, Anthony. If anyone's had a bit of a punt in a car in real life in the wet, even with your standard road tyres on, you'll get a feel for what it's like to push hard in the wet. There's a grip level, and the grip level is certainly less than in the dry. So if you're coming into a corner in the dry, you start turning your wheel. If you're going too fast, you'll understeer. In the wet, that comes back, so you can't go as fast before you feel that understeer. But you will still grip. You will still actually have grip in the wet. If you didn't, everyone would fall off the road and crash into trees and die. You've got traction. It feels solid. It's just that you can't quite go as fast as the dry. You just got to pull it back a little bit and understand that if you push too hard, you'll get understeer, and then you'll get oversteer if you accelerate too hard. On ice, however, if you've driven in the ice, when you turn, you'll notice that you have a little bit of grip, but the car's always pushing. The front always sort of feels, unless you slow right down, obviously, and be safe and whatnot, especially with families and everything. But if you're sort of having a bit of a go, you'll feel the front end go, and you've got some grip, but you've got some slip. And there are some corners you go around, and you really, and surely you Europeans would know this better than I will, you're sort of always understeering a little bit, and you kind of get understeer and then grip, and it's on and off and on and off, and then the back comes around a bit and grabs again. That's sort of what it feels like in the ice. So, let's transfer that to Gran Turismo and how it handles the rain. In all honesty, it feels like there is a grip slider bar in the back end of the game. And it might be, 100 grip, for example. And some tracks, they'll vary. They'll go, well, that one's a street track, so it might only have 90% grip, and that one's renowned for not having as much, but then Suzuka might have more, so turn it up. Maybe they even vary it by corner. Some corners, they'll have 85% grip, other corners will be 95, whatever. It kind of feels like the rain's a texture. We know that. There's no track evolution. As was rightfully pointed out, when you go into the tunnel, you're not seeing wet lines appear from the cars going through. There's no track evolution. That is just a texture on the track to make it look wet. And the spray has no effect. Even the windshield, the rain on your windshield, again, is a texture. The rain coming up. As you're going around different corners, the rain doesn't push into different directions. When you slow down, it doesn't, in real life, the faster you go, the faster the rain rips up your windshield, of course, and as you slow down, the drops start going up a little bit slower. There's none of that. It's all very consistent in this. When you're behind another car, you're getting covered. You should be getting covered in spray. Your windshield, obviously, your wipers can barely keep up in the wet. Again, you can get that straight from real life. You don't have to be David Perel, who can compare his real life GT3 on-track experience with that. You, in real life, you've all probably driven in really heavy rain. That doesn't happen here. It's just a misty spray, and it becomes difficult to see because they've basically just shrouded the back of the car and a big chunk of your visibility in a spray and that sort of thing. It does not feel in any way realistic to the way rain affects tyres. It is closer resembling ice than rain. You have some grip and you have some slippage, always. Most corners you are sort of understeering around, and that's just not how the rain really works. In the wet, typically you have grip. Your tyres will still grip. They're still rubber. They are still the same contact patch on the bit of bitumen. They will still grab that. The grooves in the tyre, which you'll see race cars add to a slick, is simply to channel that water out and make sure that the surface of your tyre is not aquaplaning, which means you have grip in the wet. Once you lose that grip, you lose it in a big way. If you go around and you're pushing your car and you're pushing and pushing it to the point where suddenly the front end lets go, you tend to slide and you've got to back right off and roll out and hope the tyre grips again. That's not how this feels. Absolutely nothing. It is that slider bar of difficulty going, okay, it's now wet on the track. Let's just slide it down to 50% or 40%. It's just not realistic at all, and it feels very arcadey, is what I'll say. Like, people already criticise Gran Turismo for being a simcade as opposed to a simulator, because of the arcadey options. Obviously, you got less tuning options and things like that, less customization within the car, but also just the way the car feels. Now, in the dry, they've been making progressive steps since they launched the game, making it feel a little bit better here and there. And if someone's out on the track, I'll quickly flip over to that, just so you can view someone. But no, it is. Oh, there we go. Raven Sig's having a crack. So we'll watch him. But yeah, it's always been criticised a little bit for being a simcade because of the way the cars handle, because of the tyre model. Anyone that's ever tried out something like iRacing or Assetto Corsa Competizione will know that Gran Turismo's not quite doing the same thing. But the rain, to me, really takes it even further away from the gaps that they've gained and brought it right back to feeling like an arcade game. The cars just handle like an arcade. Honestly, I don't think I'd have been any slower than if I plugged the controller in and I'm not a controller guy, so I'm not good with that, bear in mind. I think it would have felt just as good in third person and bumming around in that. This track feels really good compared to Red Bull Racing. Okay, good. I